Now once we have the interface ready, what we can do is we can go to our infrastructure and we can create the repository over here, and let's create the new file over here and call this one as the country repository.py file over here. And we have the repositories over here and the models and then the mappers. Since we are following the plural naming convention over here, so that's why I set it as this one. But if you are following the singular naming convention, you can just go and make this one as the repository as well over here. So let's go and create the class of our country repository over here, and this particular the interface that we need to import. So I need to go in from this particular the location. I need to import that one over here. Make sure you import the correct one over here. And once I have that, let's just go and have the def and this init the constructor over here, and here I'm going to take the self as the session, and this particular session should be imported from the SQL elsme.orm import the session. That is the session that we have previously been created over here. Get the session, that is what it's going to return us, and I'm passing it through the constructor over here. So later we can do the dependency injection over here once we create this particular class over here. And now I'll just go and say the self.the session, and which will be of the equals to the session that we will be passing on, right, as a dependency injection over here. So this is the default constructor that we have. And now once we have this particular the country repository, we can implement all of our abstract method that we have created over here. So let's just go and override all of those method over here and add the override, right? So I need to import it from the typing, and the first thing that we need to override is to def the get all the countries over here, and it's going to return us the list of the country entity. And for that we also need to go and import that particular country entity over here. And once we have imported that, what we need to do is we need to let's say a result will be of equals to the self.the session dot I need to write the query over here. Query will be of our I need to query the country model over here, and I need to import this country model over here. So let's just go on to the top and let's import the country model over here, and make sure you import the correct one over here. Infrastructure mod, not the model, so it should be of the mod infrastructure models, and dot the country model, and make sure it's the correct one over here so it can redirect you to the correct location, right? And currently it's not giving us any of the error or some kind of the warning over here because we haven't set up some of the plugins that we actually require over here. And I guess in the next round we need to go and set up that so it gives us the proper type hinting error and all of those stuff over here. And it's going to return us the list of the country, and now I can go and query my country model dot, and I can just go and say I need to query the all, right? Then I just need to return my country model, make sure it's the correct one, and I need to return the result from here, right? And I'll just go and add some documentation over here. So get all the countries, and next once we have the get all the countries, I need to go and add the override the get country by the ID over here, and that's going to give us the country ID and return us the country entity over here. And okay, so let's just go and do the query over here, self.the session query to the country model, and filter by the country model that the ID should be equals to the country ID that we are passing in over here, and it should return as the first record for us. So here I'm going to pass in the args as well. Args will be of the country ID over here, right? And it's going to return us the country entity over here. And similarly, I will go and provide it's going to return us the list of the country entity over here. So adding a documentation is really good over here, because you know that what we are passing in, what it's going to return, right? So all of those you can provide as a proper documentation over here. Obviously, it's a good practice to have all of the documentation, right? So once we have these two method overridden, we still have some more, that is to create the country, update the country, as well as delete the country. So let's just go and override the create the country over here, add override override, and let's just go and add the def function, that is to create, right? Create the country over here. And in the create the country, we are passing in the entity over here, which is a country entity, and that's going to return us the country entity as well. So what I need to do is actually, so let's just go and add the proper documentation over here. That will be to create the country, and the args that we are passing is the country entity, and it's going to return us the country entity as well. So now what I can do is basically I need to create the I need to map this particular entity to the country model over here. So what I can do is countr country underscore the el model will be of equals to the mapper that we have already defined over here, that is to map the entity to the country model. That is what we have over here. So let's just go and grab this one over here and pass in that particular method over here, and pass in the country entity over here, and then the result will be equals to the self.session that add this to the country model that we have, and commit that particular session. So that's going to write back to the database over here. And we need to import this one. I guess it's not been imported over here, so let's just go and import that one from the app.feature admin country infrastructure mappers, and then the map the country entity to the country model, and make sure that you import the correct one, right? So that is what we have over here. And once we are done with that one, it's good to go. So this also from here we are returning the country entity, so we need to import this one as well. So map the model back to the entity over here. So let's go back over here, and I need to import that, and let's go on to the top over here, and let's import that one as well over here, so that the mapper is imported correctly and we are mapping it correctly over here. So this is to map. So I can just go and add this simple comment over here, map the country entity to the model, and here I can just go and add some comment over here, add country model to the session, and commit the session, and map country, map the country model to the entity over here, and return the result over here. So that should be good enough, right? And let's go down over here. Now we have one more to override, and that should be to update the country over here. And let's just go and we are going to provide the country entity for now, but later we are going to change this one, and we have the country entity over here that's going to return us. Let's add some documentation, and as well as the code auto completion over here. So this is to get the country by the ID over here. All right, so that is to session query country model, filter by the country ID. So first we need to check whether that particular country model exists or not actually. So here we got that particular country model. If not, we should actually return back some error over here, but that will be on the later once we are doing the exception handling over here. And in the mapper, we are going to map that country entity back to the model over here. And once we have that particular model, we are going to update, make sure session.the_update, and pass in the country model that we have created, and commit the session to write it back to the database over here, and here we are just going to do the same thing what we have done over here. So that's the same concept whatever we are doing previously. We are just here we are adding the new data, here we are updating the session and committing it back to the database over here and returning to the map entity over here. From we are mapping the model back to the entity over here. And I guess it will be better to add the to do over here and check if the I guess it will be of the throw or the raise the exception if country is not found. So that will be the later case over here, that we once we are doing the exception handling, we will come in do this particular section over here, that is to raise the exception if the country is not found from here. Next, let's go down over here, and I guess we need to override one more method, which is of the add override override. And let's just go and override the def function, that is to, I guess it's the delete the country over here, and we are passing in the country ID, and it's going to return us the none for us, or if you want you can also return us the true or false depending on your requirement over here. So this is going to delete the country, and now we are going to pass in the country ID over here, and it's not going to return us anything. And let's just go, and first we need to find, okay, so first we need to find that particular country by the ID that we are providing, and here that is correct. We need to go and check the raise the exception base if the country model is not found over here. And finally we need to go and delete that particular, call the session.delete and pass in the model that we actually have over here, right? And then commit the session over here, and we are not going to return us anything from here. Or else what we can do is, if we go back to the country repository, here I guess if you want you can just go and return the boolean depending on your requirement. If you want to return a boolean, like if you want to trace back whether it's deleted or not, true or false, right, some kind of that, if you need that in the front end side. And for that what you can do is just go and return the bool from here, and let's go back to our repository over here, and from here I need to return the bool. And once I have the bool over here, let's just go down over here, and let's just go and return the true or false from depending over here. So from here I can just go and commit and say return true or false over here. And I guess that's all for this particular lesson, and we need to create some of the exception, as well as I guess before we move on to the application layer over here, I guess we'll do the exception handling first over here. So let's meet up in the next one.